how to max appeal. There is a lot of talk in the looks-backing space and the internet about being attractive and appealing. A lot of people, they do want to increase their PSL, but a lot of us want to be appeal maxing, and that is what you should be doing, because the truth is that PSL, that's a rating score about who is the most facially, visually attractive, and statistically, it's all about numbers and measurements and looking like you just came off the line as a Ken doll. Actually, you know what? The truth is, often with a lot of things in reality, what's often considered the best by all isn't actually the best. If you look at a lot of the most attractive people in the world, or what said to be most attractive, a lot of people would actually agree that they think they look too much for them. They look too alien, they look too weird. And people with high PSL scores, the face, they look very, together, and they do look very good, but they're actually not often the majority voted by the most amount of people. So that's where the term then comes in. Then there are these other celebrities who actually they have a lower PSL, who are actually much more visually appealing and good to look at and attractive, and would thereby elevate them to the highest. Now, the entire phenomenon of just being appealing is, like I said, across many different mediums, not just looking. How often do you see that the best movies, your favorite movie, probably isn't, written by Shakespeare, cinema classic, it's not the most highest rated on IMDb, but you like it because it's very good. Marvel movies and movies like that, they're just widely generally appealing to the public. They are seen as very, very good, even though they are considered, not as good as the masterpieces. Because the masterpieces have, a certain perfection about them, and they're flawless. A lot of guys, they'll look at a girl and say, she's good, but she's, almost too attractive, and that some people have to be a little bit ugly to be attractive. And women say the same about men. Though women, it's not so much about looks, it's more so about aura. But the thing is, the truth across the board is that being more appealing is actually much better than just being the highest, because actually being appealing in turn makes you higher than the people who are perfect because they don't have any flaws. And flaws, as we know, they reveal imperfections, they reveal this sort of clash in ideas. Appeal, the face of appealing is Tom Welling. Because Tom Welling is not exactly you wouldn't put him at the very top, the most attractive people in the world. But people really like him just because he's good to look at. And it comes from this. The way you max appeal is that it comes from everything in life has a spectrum. There are two sides of the spectrum. There is, you are either geeking or locked in. And the truth about appeal is that it's not settling for mediocrity by settling in the middle. In a way, you sort of become the scale entirely. You need to envelop the entire scale to max appeal. You want to be all around attractive to the most amount of people. So you're just sort of universally generally accepted as good looking, or it's just seen as good, attractive. And like I said, this applies to a lot of things, but we're talking about looking at the face. The way you max appeal is, obviously, I'm not saying settle for mediocrity, but actually it has been said before, it's often better to do average, really, really good, than do really good, but poorly. So for example, you want to be looks maxing, you want to improve your looks, but not so much to a degree that you are obsessing. If you start to obsess, then that becomes too much. People go to the gym and they'll work out, they'll get muscle, okay, that's good. But they take it a step further. They start injecting steroids. They start getting bigger muscles. Their hair starts falling out, and they become looking like a rock monster. They're no longer appealing and attractive anyway. So, same with people losing weight. You can lose so much weight that you're eventually just scared bones. That's not very attractive or appealing at all, because you're just like a twig, a stick figure. So you want to find a good balance in the middle. The middle, this is where you want to be. You want to be in the middle, but very good, while also encapsulating the entire list. So, for women, it would be two different versions. There are really shy girls who just don't want to talk to anybody, or geeky. Or there is the town whore. And you see how either of them are way extreme on each side. Same thing with men, where it's you can either be really fat and obese, or you could be really, super jacked to the point where your muscles have muscles. And women don't really find that attractive. You want to be appealing to the most amount of people. And that, again, is pretty universal, where people will kind of just generally agree on what is attractive. You want to do average very well, instead of almost too well, poorly, because this could go really wrong. Again, more muscle is not always the answer. Because more muscle is always the answer, then more, at what point does it stop? You become obsessive. So you need to not become obsessive. You need to have a balanced life where you take in all of these categories, and you can, there's a verse in the Bible where it says, be all things to all people. You need to be sort of this everyman of sorts, where you're just appealing to the most amount of people. And that's not to say that you should be tame. Of course, I'm very adamant about taking risks, about, You have to offend people sometimes to be able to think. But the truth is that to be just generally appealing, you want to cultivate a certain warmth about you. So I'll go over an example. So first of all, if you need to train like Bruce Wayne, you need to go to the gym and you need to be working out, obviously, to get a good physique. But the flip side of that, like I said, there's geeking and there's locked in. So for every really, really hard thing you do on one end of the spectrum, you should do something just equally well. So you need to be working out like Bruce Wayne and then act as if you are a celebrity who does these crazy stunts at 5, but then later at 6, you have to go for a photo shoot. So you need to get all dressed up and nice. So you do, again, you see, there's the dichotomy. You're not too far on one end. You want to be, doing something really, really hard, locked in, and then go back to sort of being this naturalness. In fact, it could be tied to something with masculinity and femininity. Everyone has masculinity and femininity inside each of them, but you want to sort of balance the two by going back and forth between each. So for every really crazy hard thing you do, a lot of guys, they'll do like hard things, they'll be, like really tough and aggressive, but then they don't balance it out by, playing with their kids. They don't balance out by having a puppy, things like that. And you want to balance these two to sort of, it's these clashing ideals where, again, like I said, you could be the spectrum as a whole instead of just being like, oh, I'm so super serious and I go to the gym 7 days a week. Or there's obviously being a nerd, which is bad, where it's like, I don't do anything hard and I just sit inside all day. You want to sort of act as if you are a athlete. You want to train like Bruce Wayne. You need to be dressing like a model. And you also need to speak sort of like a scholar. Make sure your oratorial skills are up to par. Again, like I said, the point of all of this is sort of balancing the different areas of life and not going too far in one direction, because then you sort of lose yourself. Now, of course, there is what's true to you. Of course, be yourself, be your personality. If you're much more into sports, you're going to be aggressive, you're going to be tough. Maybe you don't like sports, maybe you like reading more and you're a bit more shy. Okay, that's cool too. But what often happens is that when people just are not universally attractive and appealing is because they go too far in one area and they kind of don't know when to stop or how to balance it out with something else. So a way that you can actually max appeal right now is go to the gym and work out a lot. But also, when it comes to fashion, then you really want to dress almost as boring as possible. You can dress obviously interesting. I said dress like a model. But what I mean by that is that, like this shirt that I have on, if I went to church and wear it out, then it's because it's very boring. It's very plain and simple. And it goes back to what I said about you're doing average, very good, instead of very good, badly. So keep all these things in mind and make sure you are maxing appeal by living this sort of the different extremes of life. And you almost want to become the spectrum.